Hi Vedanti, how are you?
I'm good, sir.
So can you tell me something about yourself? How many years of experience you have in the field of software testing?
Yes, sir. So I have 3.4 years of relevant experience in the field of software testing. I joined in Feb 2021 in Accenture,
Mm,
and I was at that time application development analyst, and soon I was allotted a project like within a month, and I was been given automation testing role, and parallelly I was being trained in automation testing as well. And mostly I've been allotted to a single project till now. My project is Hartford Newco, and it's an insurance and banking domain.
mm-hmm,
And basically it's an insurance PL line insurance giving domain.
mm-hmm. Okay, okay, great. Now, which is the automation framework that you are using?
So from the start itself, sir, we are using Selenium protractor with TypeScript.
Okay.
Recently, sir, we have been thinking of, I mean, the project has been thinking of shifting from Selenium to Playwright.
Mm-hmm. Okay, okay. So what is your contribution to this automation framework?
Sir, so whatever requirements we are getting from the client, we try to automate them to the max. Of course, if it is too complex, we try not to automate it because the maintenance of the scripts gets harder. But
Mm,
we try to automate up to the max. We try to, as much as possible, we try to include the coverage,
mm,
and we do automate step by step in Sprint, and also we do the end-to-end testing of it.
mm,
So
mm.
we try to automate the scripts, but at the same time, sir, the scripts which we think should not be automated, we do the manual testing of it parallelly.
Okay, okay, fine. See, whenever you get this kind of a question in a real-time interview, so basically you have to come up with a storyline. So let me share my screen. See, there would be challenges in all the automation frameworks, whether it is manual testing project or it's an automation testing project, challenges would be there. So when they are asking you what is your contribution to this test automation framework, then in that case, you have to tell that about the challenges and the resolution. So one of the challenge that you can tell is about flaky test. So there are some tests which are flaky enough, which are having some intermittent failures. So let's say on Monday, they got passed. On Tuesday, they will fail. On Wednesday, Thursday, again, they might work fine. On Friday, it might fail. Again, on weekends, they might fail. On Monday, again, they might pass. So these are flaky tests. So as a part of the automation team, what you can do is you can tell that you have identified the root cause of such kind of test. Maybe it is unstable environments, maybe the order or the sequence of the test scripts that you have used, or maybe the application issue, or maybe some particular test, the way they have been written in that module, those things.
Yes,
So
sir.
you identified the root cause, you implemented retry mechanism. So what is retry mechanism? So that is you had a kind of a try catch, and then you ask those particular tests to run again. Maybe in a repeat mode, they might get passed. So those kind of things you have to tell. And you can use smart waits, soft delays to make sure that the tests are running properly. The second challenge that most of the projects face is the maintenance overhead. What is maintenance overhead? So at times the applications are so big, there are so many modules in that applications that it becomes difficult to automate each and everything. And even if you have automated, then how will you go for a modularized approach? So let's take an example. You are having an insurance domain kind of a website. So you might be having a different functionality flow for the vendors or for some agents or some routine customers. So how you will modularize them? So you can go for this kind of thing. So you came up with a suggestion of going for a modular approach, and then you segregated the pages, the test scripts, and the module wise feature files you kept. And then you went for the approach. In the modular approach, obviously the dependencies would get reduced, because when you have to change the scripts for some particular module, you'll just focus on that module, right? So there are less chances of regression issues to come up in the automation framework as well. So those are the few of the things that you can tell. So this is one of the challenge. Second challenge covered here: flaky test, maintenance overhead. Apart from this, you can also tell about the collaboration thing. Now, one simple example with respect to collaboration which you can give is, Hmm. So in the companies, at times the manual testing team will be different and there will be a different team members who would be doing automation. So let's say you identified the few of your manual testing team members, they are repeatedly doing one of the tasks. For example, they have to upload some particular files, they are creating the test data every day, and then they are starting the testing work, actual testing work. So you as a part of automation team, you identified that is a mundane work, that is a repetitive work for them. And then you automated it and you handed over those scripts for them to them so that they can run and they can create the test data in an automation manner. This way, their time is getting saved and they are able to focus on other productive tasks. So this is also one of the collaboration that you did within the team. Outside the team, also you can say if there is any other project in which the automation was required and they were stuck in implementing one of the technical thing related to protector or TypeScript. So you assisted them there and you
Yeah,
made their life easier. Right? So this is how
sure,
you
sir.
can tell collaboration, team impact. Okay, at the end, you can tell as a result of this what happened. So maybe percentage was increased, this much amount of time was reduced. So such kind of answers would assist you in clearing the interviews. 50 to 60% you are done. If you are able to speak even 1 or 2 points out of these 3 points, you are done there, right? The interviewer would be happy to see what kind of answers you are giving. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Okay, now let me share my screen. So I have a use case. Hmm. So, okay. Um, so I have a data in an Excel file. So I have to read that particular data from an Excel file and I have to pass it into my website. So how will you pass this data in the post request? How will you read the data from that Excel file? So can you write a code for this?
No, sir. I have actually not used an Excel
Excel file.
format, but we do use JSON format. So,
JSON format.
yeah.
Okay.
So
No
I'm
worries.
not sure
Then let
about
me
the Excel
change.
request.
Now let me change this thing. So you have to read the data from a JSON file and you have to pass this data in the post request. So how would you do it? Now this is similar to what you are doing, right? So whichever files you are using for reading the data, it might be CSV, it might be XLS, it might be XLSX, it might be JSON file, it might be a notepad file, right? So how will you read the data from those files?
So, sir, in our project automation framework, what we have seen is that
So,
before in scenario hooks, this is written
yeah,
how to
just a
do.
second. Yeah, just a second. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, please go ahead. So how will
Sir,
you?
I think I'm not aware of this.
Okay, no worries. So let this be an open question for the people who are watching this video. There is a data in a JSON file. How do you pass this data in the post request? How will you read the data from the JSON file? Okay, so you can answer in the comment section of the video itself. So meanwhile, what I'll do is I'll assist you with how you can integrate reading of an Excel file and a post request in the protector test. So let me assist you with that answer. Okay. So if you have to write this particular script, so with respect to protector, you will be first creating the utils class. What is utils? So that will be a common class from which you will be performing the Excel operations. When I say Excel operations or JSON file operations, you are reading the data, you are retrieving the data from that particular file, or you are setting the data to that file. So those are Excel reader kind of a utilities you will create. Then you'll import the browser. So this is the protector. Okay. Then you'll describe the protector test with Excel data and the post request. So what you have to pass. So first of all, the URL. So let it be an any URL that you take. And the file path, the file where it has been located. So that file might be at any particular location. So you have to take care when it is triggered by DevOps or when it is running in another machine, then that file path should be there. So accordingly, you will keep that file path. Then the next step is you'll be reading the data from an Excel file. So how you will read the data? So you'll create this constant Excel data equal to Excel reader dot read Excel file and the file path that you had mentioned here, file.xlsx. So this is for an example, you are taking one of the file and then this is the log that we are generating. Then you'll loop through all the data. So imagine you have in that particular Excel file, you have 2 columns and 10 rows. Okay. So 10 by 2. And it's a kind of a data that you have to read. So you'll be traversing through all the elements, all the cells values that are there in that Excel file. Okay. And then you have the protector test logic. So your browser.get, your URL, and then the title, get title, what you are expecting. So that should be equal to your application title. So this is how you will be reading the data from an Excel file. So what we have done here is we are launching the URL, and we can also keep the title of those URLs. So imagine you have 10 URLs from the client and the respective titles of those URLs, so that you can keep in an Excel file and you can read, or you can keep in a JSON file and you can read from them. Right? Simple?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, easy. Okay. So this is with respect to this question. Now, let me ask you one more thing. Okay. Do you know about BDD framework?
Yes, sir. We have been using Cucumber BDD framework.
Okay. So what are hooks in BDD framework? Sorry.
So the in hooks file we generally define the before all methods, sir. Here in before the test script runs, what all actions do we need to perform? After the test scripts run, what are all the methods that we or actions that we need to perform? We define here, sir. For example, after a test script has been executed, where are we storing the reports, sir? We can mention it in after all hooks, sir.
Mm-hmm. Correct. So can you describe any use case where you have used hooks or where we can use hooks in the normal automation projects?
uh Sir, in Cucumber BDD framework, we generally use the page object model, right? So our feature file name, our page file name, and the model file name are in a similar fashion. So
Hmm.
we write this in before hook files, that whichever feature file we are trying to run, similar name page file, similar name model file, and similar name JSON file we are trying to fetch, and
Hmm.
that's how a test script runs and the data has been fetched from JSON. So we define it in before. So reading the JSON data, launching the URL from the
Hmm.
environment URL JSON, so that kind of code we write in the scenario hooks.
Perfect. Perfect. Right. So when you have to read the URL, you might have to run the automation script in different environments, let's say staging environment. Then you have test environment, you have dev environment. At times you have to run on that. At times you might have to run on the production environment. So you might be specifying the URLs in the before. So
Yes.
before and after hooks, they will run before and after each scenario. And if you have before all and after all hooks, they'll run once before and after all scenarios. Okay. So hooks in Protector with Cucumber you are using, and they will allow you to run setup, and you can also run your tear down code at different levels, right? So that is the significance on hooks. So this was good. You were able to answer this question. So great. Now let me go to the next question. Okay. Now, this is one of the scenario that you have to answer. So let me share my screen. So you are automating a web application. Okay, it's a normal web application which is related to e-commerce website or healthcare domain. And you are getting a string. So let's say you are clicking on one button. So let me add here. You click on one button. Let's say pay. Okay, pay option is there. And there is an alert that is coming up. There is an alert pop-up coming up, and you are supposed to get the string from that alert pop-up. Okay, you have to validate whether that string, this welcome, is coming from that alert pop-up is not or not, right? So this, let it be a string like this: welcome to let's say flipkart.com. Okay, this is your entire string that you are getting from an alert pop-up. Okay, and you have to validate using assertion. So using soft assertion or with using any assertion, that whether welcome is a part of your string or not. So how would you do this?
Uh, yeah,
Yeah. Are you sharing the screen?
do I need to share the screen, sir? I
Can
have
you open it? Mm.
I can tell you the methods which we use
Yes.
to do that.
Yes,
So
yes.
generally, when we have this alert class and methods which
Mm.
we can use. So many of the methods, like for example, if we are switching from window, we can use switch to alert. For
Mm.
getting the text, we can use get text method, I
Yes, correct.
believe, and we can put asserts maybe on the get text methods what we are getting, and then what is the expected value. So I think we can try that way.
Mm-hmm. So see, you have to get welcome. You have to check for welcome. When you say get text, it will fetch you entire thing. Welcome to flipkart.com. But you have to just check for welcome, whether welcome is coming in that string or not. In that case, what you will do?
um,
So are you aware about contains kind of a method? Can use,
yeah, sir.
right? So
Contains,
you
yes,
can
we can use contains, correct.
contains with equal ignore case also you can go for. Okay, you can ignore
Okay.
because sometimes, okay, now if there is a requirement that W should be in uppercase, ELCOME can be in lowercase, then you cannot go for equal ignore case. But if you are going for a requirement where irrespective of whether it is an uppercase or lowercase, it should come. So then you will go for an equal ignore case
Yes,
and you will
sir.
check for contains.
Yes, the contains we use when if this is one of the case wherein the case of the letter are not matching, or which are we are not sure on the value of the case. And also, sir, if there is some dynamic text appending to that text, so we just try to include the static text which we are trying to validate. So contains, yes, sir, we can use there.
Contains you can use, right? Okay, now coming to the next question. So how many test cases do you automate every day?
So, sir, it is totally based on the requirement which you are getting from the client. So,
Hmm.
if the requirement is a simple requirement wherein the requirement itself is containing regression part more, so we try to automate that. So, if the requirement is a bit complex and we have timelines to deliver it, sir, we try to go manual way. So and we get some time to automate. So, I feel, sir, 2 to 3 test cases we are good, we can automate per day, but not more than that.
Hmm. Okay. So whenever you get this kind of a question in a real-time interview, so don't tell this number directly. Okay. What you should do is you should tell, you should give a diplomatic answer here. So it depends on the complexity of the application. So it is, if your complexity of the application, is a low, medium, or high complexity application. So if it's a low complexity application, and you're going for a BDD. So in that BDD, you would be going for a feature file. In a feature file, you will be writing the keywords. And if the keywords are available with you, so that means code also might be available with you in the step definition file. So then what you will do is you can, if it's a low complexity, keywords are available, code is available, you can automate up to 6 to 12 test cases per day. How I have calculated this? So consider you are working for 8 hours in a day. In 8 hours, you might be having some meetings also. You might be having some calls. You might be interacting with the client. You might be having a word with your managers, leads, or sometimes you have to have a word with the development team. So let's reduce 2 hours from that. Now you're left with 6 hours. Okay. And then again, when you say 6 hours, not every moment of time you would be doing the automation. At times, you might get some junior member who is coming to you and he might tell, Vedanti, I'm unable to find the locator. Can you please assist me? Or your code is getting reviewed by your leads and managers and you are connecting with them. So out of 6 hours, again, you can take it 4 hours of your actual automation code thing when you will be doing. More than 4 hours, it will be difficult for you to do code as well. Even some people, they can do 2 hours or 3 hours at the max. So within that particular time limit, you can tell, yes, 6 to 12 test cases, because I'm taking 3 test cases in an hour. That too, when keywords, code, everything is available. Okay. Now, if keywords and codes is not available, then it might take more time for you. Okay. Because you have to define the keywords. You will have to search in the keyword library whether that keyword is available or not. If it is not available, then you will create that keyword. You will write a corresponding code in the step definition file. You will check in the test runner whether it is running everything fine or not. So those kind of things. You'll create a pull request. You'll identify the test cases. So that is there. If it's a medium, then with respect to 4 hours, you might be able to automate 4 to 6 test cases. Okay. And if it's a high complexity thing, so it might take 2 to 3 test cases. End to end. I'm saying end to end, everything. You design the code, you run that code on your local machine, and you perform unit testing, and then you integrate your code with a DevOps pipeline, and you run that pipeline and you check it. So end to end, it might take this. So give answers diplomatically, because if you'll give the answers like this number, there are chances of cross questions. Okay, 2 or 3 test cases. Okay, how many test cases, how many test steps are there in that test cases again? Right? That is also important.
Mhm.
Because test cases is a single entity. Within that, you might have multiple test steps also.
Yes,
So
sir.
that also is one of the criteria that we can add here. That one test case, but that might have 2 test steps, or that might have 10 test steps also. Okay. Now coming to the next question here. Okay. So what is the difference between page object model and page factory?
Sir, I'm aware about page object model, but yeah, I'm not aware about page factory.
No worries, no worries. You can give the answer. What is page object model first?
Sir, page object model with this is nothing but let's call it kind of framework which we try to implement while we are using while we are doing automation. So page object model is in any web application, for example, there are many pages that we need to navigate and visit and have assertions performed on. So we try to create page files for each of the pages, and we again try to create a model file for those pages. So model file, we write generally the experts and all the locators.
Hmm.
So we try to use page object model in this manner, sir,
Hmm.
depending on
Hmm.
the web application and the pages.
Hmm. Okay. See, uh, when you say page object model, so page object model is a design pattern. It's not a framework. Okay. Page object model is a design pattern. Then what is page factory? So page factory is a class itself that will implement the page object model design pattern. So within page object model, you will have finding web elements using by. And there in the page factory, you'll be using
Find by.
annotation find by. Okay, so a page object model is you'll have to initialize every page object individually. You have to create the objects, then you'll be able to access them. Whereas in the page factory, all the object elements are initialized by using the init elements method. Okay, so this is the difference between the two, page object model and page factory. Okay, now let me give you one scenario. Mm, So this is actually one of the requirement that has been given to you from your stakeholder. The scenario is that let's say you have to. Okay, fine. So let me share my screen. So you have this scenario. So when the payment is successful, suppose it's a healthcare domain application, and you are doing some transaction. If the payment is successful, then logs should not be generated. Okay. But if the payment is unsuccessful, Then logs should have a date timestamp with an error message that this particular error came at this functionality, date timestamp, those kind of details. So how will you do this in automation? Only when there is an error. Okay, when there is an error, at that time only you have to go for logs. Otherwise, you don't have to go for logs. Okay, so how will you achieve this?
Sir, so first thing we do is we put an assertion, right? These are all kind of assertions which we are taking.
Hmm.
So I feel we can also use, I've seen switch cases as well
Hmm.
using. So for example, if we use switch case and we have a keyword of successful and unsuccessful in the cases. So in the case which says unsuccessful, we can log an errors giving throw keyword, and we can include the date stamp, and date with the date class we can get the date stamp using get
Hmm.
current date method, and we can throw an error message depending on what we are trying to inform as why the this is failed. So I
Hmm.
believe
Hmm.
throw can be one of the keyword that we can use to give error messages. And certain asserts we can always use the string message which we are trying to use. So assert, we can use assert not equal, assert strict equal, assert equal, wherein we can put if else statements. If the payment is successful, we can give no asserts there. If the payment is not successful, we generally, if there is a boolean keyword which we are trying to validate true false, then in case of false we can give a specific assert messages with the date timestamp using date class.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, that's the correct approach. So we're using Boolean. So Boolean will return you true or false. Okay, so using false, you'll go for a logs.
Yes, sir. So, for example, here in payment successful, if you are getting some message on the screen that, yeah, and we are trying to validate that we should get this page with the successful message. So, in that case, if that particular DOM element we are not able to get, and we get a
Hmm.
false as a outcome, in that case, we either display a message that element not found, and if the element not found, the possible reasons could be if the payment is not successful, or in case if we are getting not successful message here, we
Hmm.
can try to validate it that way as well.
Hmm. 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 Okay, great. Fine. So do you know about DevOps tools? Are you aware about DevOps?
Sir, I'm aware about DevOps. I know tools, for
Hmm.
example, like Jenkins, but I'm not aware of that. There is a dedicated team to that. So my
Hmm.
hands-on practice on that is not much, sir.
Okay. But have you faced any issues with respect to DevOps? What kind of challenges you have faced with respect to DevOps?
Sir, the outcome I'll tell as a challenge which I've
Hmm.
faced it currently, sir. There was a 503 service unavailable error
Yes.
from,
Hmm.
like, let's say yesterday 6:30 to
Hmm.
today office time, and I was not sure why is this error, why are the deployments they say are failing. But then
Hmm.
I got in touch with the DevOps team. I got to know, I asked first them that are the deployments being failing, or the deployment being going on, or is it stuck somewhere so that we are getting service unavailable. They informed, sir, the credentials to deploy the particular chain sets or the cycles were expired.
Hmm.
So I believe they had to replace that, and that's how the deployment process was successful.
Hmm.
Continuous
Hmm.
integration and deployment process. So that was one of the challenge I got to know, sir.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that is fine. Service was unavailable. Okay. What are the some common locators and protector that you are using, and how do you use them?
Sir, I use them manually because most of the times our client do not allow us to use extensions like XPath and or maybe Selectors Hub, which I
Mm-hmm.
try to practice it in my personal development, sir. But we try to use them manually, and we generally use XPath. We use input class or ID, sir, by that, and we generally use XPath, sir, there.
Mm-hmm. Spark you'll use. Okay. Okay. How will you do data-driven testing in Protector?
So data driven, I feel we use via JSON. So for
Mm.
example, sir, in an insurance based domain, there are certain details required to create a policy.
Hmm.
So the basic details, fundamental details are the personal details of the customer.
Hmm.
If he's into getting an insurance for a vehicle, then he needs those vehicle input details. So sir, we try to give those details and into the JSON file, so that the as you said sir, the hooks file will pick up that JSON file, and
Hmm.
that's how it will create a policy, sir.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So JSON driven approach we
Right,
follow.
right. So JSON, apart from JSON, you can use Excel file also, and within that you can provide the test data like this. You have input and you have expected. So you have customer details, the customer ID would be there and the customer details. So what is the input test one and expected result one for that test one? Input you have test two, expected is result two for that test two. And then you'll be traversing the loop for all these particular test data one by one. Okay. So this is the code that you will be, so you might be asked to write the code in the real-time interview. So be ready with the Notepad++ or ID, IntelliJ or Eclipse, whichever you are comfortable with, and you can write the code in that. Okay. Now this is one of the question. Now, okay. How will you capture a screenshot?
Sir, we use take screenshot method to capture a
Hmm.
screenshot. So I believe that method is used, and we can use wherever we need to capture a screenshot. Also at a failure, we the
Hmm.
assertions take the screenshot. Generally assertions which we use take screenshot, and wherever necessary, we try to implement that method.
Yes, yes, correct. Yeah. Okay, Vedanti, I am done with the test automation interview. Do you have any questions for me?
Sir, what are the areas do you
Mm-hmm.
feel, sir, I need to more focus on
Sure,
in
sure.
terms of
So,
the technicality?
yeah, yeah. So see, with respect to predictor, you have a fair idea. What you have to focus is if you can focus on DevOps tools like Jenkins, how is the pipelines created, which are the different stages in those pipelines, and which are the kind of errors you might get in the DevOps tools, and how will you troubleshoot them? What is Docker? What is Kubernetes? If you have a basic idea, no one is expecting you to be a pro in this DevOps, but if you have a basic idea, it would be helpful for you. Then some of the scenario-based things like how will you read the data from a JSON file? Or with respect to logs, you were able to answer that question. And I think with respect to data driven, you were able to answer. So just one or two scenario based questions, right, that you need to focus on. And what
Sir,
difference between page object model and page factory? Yeah.
yes, sir. And sir, technically, as to, like I said, I have an experience in TypeScript framework, but of course, we use it's a wrapper class for JavaScript, sir. So we
Yes.
use Java concepts only.
Hmm.
So as an interviewer, sir, what logic-based question they can ask
Hmm.
me to implement?
So in an interview, if you see the job description, if they are looking for core Java or if they are looking for Python, then they'll ask you to write some program. And in that, they'll give you some logic. Maybe they'll ask you to, for example, they might ask you to go for typecasting from the data type from to another data type. And then further the question would be, okay, let's move to one more data type level. Okay, that can be one of the things. Or else they might ask you to um, pick the elements from the string and
Mhm.
then the duplicate elements, and then arrange them or the sequence of those elements, sort the elements in a string or array in an ascending order, descending order. So those kind of coding questions you can get. You might implement them in the scripting language that you are aware of, and then they'll ask you whether you would be comfortable with Java or not. So then it will be discussed like that.
Okay, sir.
So those things would be happening. Okay, Vedanti, anything else you would like to ask?
No, sir, I'm good.
Yeah.